Manchester United have been a club of history and glory. And today we are here to talk about this club and how they have rediscovered themselves after a while. Welcome on Mad About Sports once again, everyone. I hope you have already subscribed to our channel. And today's video is all about the regained glory of Manchester United. So let's get going. As you all know, it was a Carabao Cup rather, which was played between Newcastle United and Manchester United, and Manchester United came on top by winning over Newcastle United and getting the EFL Cup back to Manchester and to the red side of Manchester. But when we talk about Manchester United over the last one decade, one could feel they've lost its glory, they've lost its sheen rather. But now, what has happened over the last 10 years since the leaving of Sir Alex Ferguson? We've seen some of the most drastic changes in the club history. The club, which was known to win trophies almost every season, at a sudden halt in terms of winning trophies. Mentality of the players were questioned. The tactical nuances of the club and of the way in which the team was playing was questioned. Facilities at the club were questioned. A lot of things had come under the scanner. There were almost five managers and two caretaker managers since the leaving of Sir Alex Ferguson in the last one decade. Now, when we talk about the most highest points for Manchester United since the leaving of Sir Alex Ferguson, it had to be the Europa League, which they had won in 2017. It was one of the most historically celebrated days of Manchester United as well. Now, when you talk about a club like Manchester United, a club who was well known to going deep into the Champions League, maybe Europa League win wasn't really something which would have satisfied a lot of fans. Definitely, it's a European trophy, but maybe not good enough. But even after that, that particular continuation was halted from Manchester United. Now, fast forward to 2022, Manchester United decided to appoint Erik Ten Hag from Ajax. After having a disastrous season with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and also with Ralf Ragnick, it was only about time they found a permanent solution to their managerial issues. And Erik Ten Hag was definitely a manager who carried himself with a reputation as a true gaffer. With Ajax, he has won everything when it comes to Eredivisie. One of the best seasons for Ajax is definitely 2019 when the team went deep into the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League with a young Ajax squad, and of course, winning Eredivisie with the Ajax squad was a norm for Erik Ten Hag. Now, when Erik Ten Hag was definitely appointed as a part of Manchester United, there were a lot of questions as to whether Erik Ten Hag is even the right man, whether the mentality of the players can change overnight in a club which is in complete turmoil. Now that is where things really took a turn because there were some superstars in the team. There were some people who felt like shouldn't be the captain of the team. And what could have been even worse? Manchester United getting off to the worst possible start in the Premier League, losing to Brentford and after that losing to Brighton as well. Now that is a horror start for any manager. It's a worst possible start which any manager could ever even dream of. Even in a FIFA career mode, you obviously wish to get off to a good start. Now, when you lose 4-0 on a trot, now that is possibly the worst possible shocker. And definitely, as the season progressed, you saw some signings coming. You saw Lisandro Martinez coming in from Ajax. You saw Anthony coming in from Ajax. And one of the biggest signing of them all had to be Casemiro, the five-time UCL winner, coming to Old Trafford to change the fortune of the club. Definitely a lot of questions as to whether Casemiro is even the right signing because he's a 30-year-old center defensive midfielder who's got a winning mentality in Real Madrid, just had won a UCL with them. Now, why would he even come to Manchester United, who are struggling at that point of stage? Now, how do Erik Ten Hag really answer it? Maybe for the first initial day when Casemiro came in, he definitely did not push Casemiro into the deep waters. He took time and he slowly integrated Casemiro into the system, and Casemiro adapted beautifully. And now one of the biggest factor for the Manchester United squad during the early part of the 2020-23 season, especially before the World Cup, was where would you play the star man, the star boy to the legend which Cristiano Ronaldo had become. And now Cristiano Ronaldo's exit definitely meant that a lot of spotlight which was on Manchester United for the wrong reasons all of a sudden went away. Everton had complete hold of control when it comes to Manchester United and the way in which they would have wanted to run the club. Now, when we talk about that, Everton really brought in a system, brought in players. Now, initially, after the departure of Cristiano Ronaldo, he played Anthony Martial as number 9. Rashford definitely was getting to start going. Then Jadon Sancho, Anthony up there, and also now one of the biggest signings of Eriksen was there, who was stepping up with every game as it went by. And Casemiro's involvement, Casemiro's just that presence and the aura which he had in the midfield in itself was a huge advantage for Manchester United. And one could say experience is something which you don't buy in the market in sports. And that's exactly what Casemiro was for that mold which Erik Ten Hag was creating. Now, as things went by, now right after the World Cup was when things started completely turning around for Manchester United. They were an absolute fourth gear or fourth pedal, as one would like to say. Marcus Rashford in the form of his life, scoring goals in almost every game, bursting with pace on the left-hand side, coming on the central region. Now, in the January transfer window, one of the biggest questions was who's Manchester United going to even sign? Definitely they wanted a number 9, and so they went for Wout Weghorst. Wout Weghorst is definitely a player who came from Besiktas. There was a lot of questions as to how his stint was in Burnley previously in the Premier League. Wout Weghorst, who really came into popularity after the 2 goals which he scored during the latter half of the game against Argentina in the quarterfinal of the World Cup, suddenly became a player who Manchester United wanted, and Manchester United signed him. And now, what did Wout Weghorst really do for Manchester United? Nothing really, but he was a player who really wanted to fulfill what manager asked him to do. Asked Wout Weghorst to play as number 10. He did it. Who asked Wout Weghorst just to press a player? He did it. Now, that is a player who a manager would dream to have in your team. And now, talking about Marcus Rashford, he's been the most star or the biggest stars spotlight for Manchester United over the last few weeks. He's been spectacular in almost every aspect. When it comes to his pace, when it comes to his creativity, when it comes to his goal scoring, which everybody thought went missing in Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford, now taking back, came into Manchester United team as a young prospect in way back in 2015. A 17-year-old kid everybody thought could create magic on the pitch. That potential, somewhere or the other, people thought went missing. And that penalty miss in the Euro 2021 final definitely did hurt him a lot more. That really did derail his season towards the next latter half as well. But this is possibly the best of Marcus Rashford one could have ever expected. This is Marcus Rashford unleashing his potential. This is Marcus Rashford announcing to the world he's right up there to be considered as a next generation's next big thing. Now it's finally reaching up there, and for Marcus Rashford, the support system. Now, when we talk about Manchester United, some of the players who really did not perform in the previous eras started stepping up, like Luke Shaw, like Aaron Van Bissaka at times. Now, we talk about a player like Jadon Sancho, who possibly had the worst possible start to his Premier League career, got injured, but now coming back again, gaining that confidence under Erik Ten Hag. And Anthony, of course, was there because he was always Erik Ten Hag's go-to man, even in Ajax. And Lisandro Martinez, there was no enough credit you should give to this guy because there is a lot to talk about Lisandro Martinez, a player who wears his heart on his sleeves. You saw that with Manchester United from the day he came there. There were a lot of doubts as to whether a defender who's just 5'9", 5'10" can really be even successful in Premier League. But he has answered everybody with his technical abilities. When it comes to winning aerial duel, it's not on physicality which he wins. It is sheer technical quality which outclasses him with other defenders or with other prolific strikers. Now, he's been a very important part of this wheel. Now, finally, now when Manchester United have decided to really take the full gear, they had to face one of the biggest tests. It was definitely Barcelona in the round of 32 of the UEFA Europa League. Now, going to Barcelona, a team which is in very, very good form in Europe, was definitely not an easy task. That was possibly going to be Erik Ten Hag's biggest test as well. The way in which Manchester United put up a performance in that first leg really announced to the world this is a team who was Champions League quality who really missed out there this season. And that game with two good teams coming up against each other was possibly one of the best or one of the most classic European night games you could ever witness. And the second leg in the Old Trafford, in the second half, Manchester United turned the heat on with the crowd in their backing, crossing over Barcelona to progress into the round of 16. Now, after that came the game which we are all here to discuss about today. It is a Newcastle game which people had their eyes on. On one end, you have a Newcastle United side who is possibly looking for the biggest success in the last 60 years. A team who has got one of the most successful runs so far this season under Eddie Howe, the manager. Now, people will say Newcastle United, all of a sudden, Saudi money coming in, and Newcastle United have really changed themselves. Definitely, they did get the signing. But is it some of the biggest signings who they've gotten? Definitely not. It's a team, once again, who's clicking together as a unit, who's really helped them to reach this final as well. Now, for Manchester United as well, similar stories. So, this was a game regarding passion. Manchester United chasing a title after 5 long years. Newcastle United with the first title possible in the last 60 years. Fan bases really wanted one trophy to come to their home. And that is where the setup was beautiful. Now, let's talk about the match in detail. What really happened during the match? Now, when we talk about the match, of course, Manchester United did score early 2 goals. The first one came in a free kick on a set piece, rather, and where Casemiro put that in. It was possibly, one could say, very close offside goal, but then definitely it was there. It was just missing. It was well within that final line. Nowadays, with the VAR, it's definitely not easy to predict. Now, when you look at the stats, you can see Newcastle United had a very good XG, 1.1 XG, at a possession of close to 61%. How did really Manchester United dominate the game, and how can you say Manchester United were the better team yesterday? Now that is where you talk about Erik Ten Hag's managerial class. Erik Ten Hag is a manager who adapts to situation well within the game in itself. He's not a manager who shies away from changing his tactics, maybe letting the opposition have the majority of the ball, control the game. It is fine. He totally believes in pressing through trigger movements. It is some of the most. It's one of the most beautiful things which Manchester United, one of the most their biggest strength as well. One could say so over the last few months, where Manchester United have been pressing in triggers, and in the opening 30 to 40 minutes, Manchester United has pressed more than most of the teams in Europe. And that is primarily because he's got the players who do a job for him, who really pushes the other opposition onto the trigger, go deep into the line of the opposition, win the ball in the opposition's final third, then create an attacking play. And especially on the counters as well, with the pace on the wings with Anthony and Rashford, that has been Manchester United's biggest strength, you can say so. Now, for Manchester United, definitely, after getting that first goal, the second goal came in a very quick succession as well. It was definitely termed as an own goal, but it once again was a brilliance of Marcus Rashford, who was just beautiful in that night. Now, when you look into this XG progression as well, Newcastle United was a team who came in to take a lot of long shots. It was definitely there and coming because Newcastle United throughout the season has had success scoring outside the box and trying to really take those shots again, testing David De Gea. Now, when we talk about David De Gea, you need to understand he's one of the best shot stoppers in Europe. Now, one of the biggest flaws people really thought about David De Gea was whether he's a ball playing keeper. Now, that's one of the primary reasons why David De Gea was also dropped out of the Spanish national team in the World Cup, as to he's not a good ball playing keeper. He's a very good shot stopper. He's a good sweeper keeper at times, but he's definitely not the best of when it comes to giving that ball, starting the attack from the back line. So that is where David De Gea's improvement over the last few months has been one of the most biggest shining spots in Manchester United, especially when it comes to the progress into the season. Now, winning the Carabao Cup for Erik Ten Hag really means the season is well and going. The season has got definitely a lot more trophies which they can compete for. They're still in the FA Cup. Europa League, defeating Barcelona means they are the strong favorites now to clinch that Europa League. They'll be coming up against Real Betis in that clash. Real Betis, who was a prolific team in the last year where they won the Copa del Rey as well. But now you have going up against some of the most quality sides. There's Arsenal still in the competition. There's Juventus, who's rejincing themselves, finding themselves once again. Angel Di Maria in fantastic form. For Manchester United, Europa League is definitely going to be one of the focuses alongside Premier League. Can you really write off Manchester United from the Premier League just yet? Maybe just not yet. There's a 5.6 point gap between Arsenal and Manchester United. Maybe with Arsenal dropping points over the latter end of the season and Manchester City really putting a lot of the effort into the Champions League and Manchester City not really clicking as a unit like what they were clicking the last season, really opens an avenue for Manchester United to also go and have a crack at the Premier League at full throttle. Definitely, it's not easy when you're competing in four competitions towards the latter end. You had all your squad completely fit and fine, and that's going to be Manchester United's biggest test towards the latter end. And now with signings coming into Erik Ten Hag's hand, I'm pretty sure come the 2023-24 season, you're going to be talking about Manchester United as a dominant European force, even in the Champions League. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video from us. If you did, do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, share the video with your friends and family so that we can keep bringing you all these content on daily basis and keep you more enthralled with us. Take care, all of you. It was wonderful.